Brand new video today. We're doing 2 NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Thursday football, Thanksgiving Day football. You guys, happy holidays to everyone that does celebrate. Before we get started, you guys, link in the description below. Hop into the Discord. $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. So I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have their captains in there as well. Super positive community overall. Everyone in there just trying to help each other cash. I also want to mention I'm not a gambling expert. This is not financial advice. Let me just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully, giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no pressing submit all those parlays other than yourselves. But also, a couple housekeeping notes. Follow me on Twitter, you guys. Daily plays of the day over on Twitter at Tough Picks. Again, posting daily plays of the day, keeping them separate from the YouTube plays. Link in the description below to follow me. And then Daily Grind Fantasy, you guys, the DFS optimizer. Absolute elite tool, you guys, that I do use on a regular basis to add plays into my parlays. It does all the hard work for you, whether you're an underdog, parlay play, better picks, sleeper. You can get 25% off your first month with the link in the description below of this video. But basically, like I said, does all the hard work for you. Like, for example, CD Lamb plus Malik Neighbors, combo yards under 54.03% odds to hit because it's at minus 158 essentially under on FanDuel. And then fantasy score lines because traditional books don't offer fantasy score lines based on Bijan Robinson's rush attempts, rushing touchdowns, rushing yards lines. His fantasy score line on Pinnacle would be 16.8. It's at 18.5 on PrizePicks, giving us this 54.3%. 36% odds to hit, so showing these type of line discrepancies. But yeah, let's get into it, you guys. 2 player props that I do like for this Thanksgiving Day NFL slate. 3-game slate: Chicago, Detroit, New York Giants, Dallas, which I'm going to stay away from this game, and then Miami, Green Bay. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first play I'm looking at here is going to be from Chicago, Detroit. It's going to be Keenan Allen over 12.5 fantasy score. Again, you could take receptions at 5 if you don't like, or you don't have fantasy score here, but at 12.5 PPR fantasy points for Keenan Allen, I like the upside a lot. Looking at this game, it's in Detroit. Obviously, with the weather not being a factor, and Detroit's 9.5-point favorites with a 47-point game total. So looking for some scoring here, and then obviously Detroit should be up, which means Chicago should be throwing the ball. But since the Chicago Bears changed offensive coordinators, Keenan Allen has seen 8 and 15 targets last week. So seeing a ton of usage, 23 combined targets over the last 2 weeks, giving this play just a ton of upside. But you can see here, Keenan Allen in 2 games when he faced similar type of passing defenses like Detroit, right? Detroit here is ranked 28th against opponent wide receivers. And he's faced Jacksonville, which was ranked 30th, and Minnesota, which was ranked 31st last week. He's had 21 and 23.6 PPR fantasy points. On sportsbooks, too, he's heavily favored to go over 4.5 receptions, minus 170 on DraftKings, minus 184 on Caesars to get us 5 catches. And again, this season, when he has at least 5 catches, he's had 9.4, 21.1, and 23.6 PPR fantasy points. But if we go back to last season, right, in games when he had at least 5 catches, he had games of at least 5 catches in multiple games, but with over this line in every single game with 5 catches except for 1, finishing with 10.8 here against New England. But again, because Detroit's rush defense is so good, it just tends for them to have a ton of production to wide receivers. They are allowing, like I said, the 5th most fantasy points, PPR fantasy points, to the wide receiver position this season. We look at wide receivers, PPR fantasy points game log this season. Versus the Lions, seeing 3+ targets, you can see this might even be over the last couple of weeks, but you can see the decent hit right here for wide receivers, specifically wide receivers like Keenan Allen, who line up all over the field, right? Like Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, Jaden Reed, all line up all over the field. And Keenan Allen's kind of where he lines up is a little, slot, outside. It's very split up, so there's not really one specific corner that can kind of follow him throughout the game. But I love this spot a lot here. I think with this new offensive coordinator, they're trying to get Keenan Allen the ball, short, quick throws, low 8-out type of throws, which again for PPR scoring just helps a ton of upside. So Keenan Allen's the first play. Second player I'm looking at here is going to be Tucker Kraft, the tight end for the Green Bay Packers. I like his over 31.5 receiving yards here against Miami for a few reasons. One, over the last on the season, they are allowing the most targets to the tight end position. 98 total targets to the tight end position, which is more than the Ravens and the Broncos and the Colts, which have all played one more game than them, right? But Romeo Doubs is going to be out for this one, which to me here, I think Tucker Kraft is the main beneficiary. In the single game that Tucker Kraft played without Romeo Doubs, he had 88 yards against the Rams. 5 targets, 4 catches for 88 yards. And the snap count continues to dominate for him. I mean, he's just dominating the snap count for the Packers, right? He's a great pass blocker and a great run blocker as well, so he stays on the field. But there should just be a ton of upside. And we look at tight ends game log this season, recently, specifically versus the Dolphins when logging 3 targets. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper both cleared this line last week. 2 tight ends. They combined for 9 catches for over 100 receiving yards. Brock Bowers, 126. Davis Allen, 6 targets, 5 catches for 34. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches, 10 targets for 32. Trey McBride, 9 catches, 11 targets for 124. So, I mean, they've been getting demolished by tight ends. And specifically, like, the Miami Dolphins, they're tough against the wide receiver position, right? They have Jalen Ramsey. They've got really good secondary, which really kind of opens things up for tight ends down the middle, right? So I like this spot here a lot for Tucker Kraft. I think it's kind of a buy low considering he's only had a few targets over the last couple of weeks. I mean, last week he's had 2 targets for 26 yards and a touchdown. Mind you, this game was kind of out of reach and they weren't really throwing the ball. But we know Miami's offense is pretty good. They've been surging as of late with Tua back. And I think it's a buy low spot. Again, if you don't like receiving yards, you could pivot and take fantasy or reception targets as well. But I like the receiving yards. Again, so reception targets is at 4.5 in games this season when he's seen at least 4 targets. He's over this line not over this line, but has seen 33, 88, 34, and 53 total receiving yards. So it's a great spot for Tucker Kraft in this one. 31.5 receiving yards for Tucker Kraft is the second place. So again, please drop a like on this video, you guys. Take a look in the description below. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.